You better not touch my gal, or I'll knock you in the kisser, pal. You better not even try, you'll be looking at a big black eye. So listen good, you two-bit hood. I'm counting from 1 to 10, and if you're not gone by the crack of dawn, you will never eat solid food again. Something like that. It went.
That's Rick Corso, and he brought to life one of the memorable part-time players on Hey Arnold, Dino Spumoni, a Sinatra takeoff full of life and too big for the cartoons he's in. But before Rick put a voice to the faux legendary singer, he was simply an idea by writer Steve Viksten. Jim Lang, composer, Hey Arnold.
Viksten was such a character. He was kind of like a character out of a little bit like working with Charles Bukowski, or a character out of an LA crime novel or something like that. He was kind of routinely unkempt. He was really his own man, As I'm sure, people probably would tell you about Steve, he was a pretty tortured guy. I mean, he wasn't a happy camper. He didn't get back from the world the kind of appreciation that we all want for the creative work that we do. I don't think Steve ever got to live in a bubble of affirmation. I think in terms of the way he felt about himself and the way the world reflected itself to him, I don't think he got a lot of great strokes, He was certainly a good writer. He wrote very funny stuff. He wasn't just writing a script, he was kind of inhabiting those people. Or at least that's kind of the way I always felt about him. The other Steve Viksten story I remember is that they went to his apartment at some point. His apartment was just like a complete trash heap. And whoever it was that was there was kind of like moving stuff aside on the coffee table to find a place to put something down. And there was a pile of checks there, paychecks from the network that he'd never cashed. It's like, oh my God.
Viksten was known for his characters that were pulled from the dredges and depths of life. Steve's characters would have been more at home in a play from the group theater, rather than the second coming of Nicktoons. His creations weren't so much characters as they were creatures, dripping of failure, despair, and ego. And yet these despicable human beings managed to not only be charming in their own way, but also unforgettable. Dino Spimoni was perhaps the most monstrous creation. But before his long character arc, he simply began as a plot device. He first appeared in Season 1 of Hey Arnold in the old building, penned by Rachel Lipman and Steve Viksten. The appearance was short and sweet. Dino just stops by in a limo to save the old theater. But he leaves behind an endearing piece of music crafted by Viksten and Lang, and sung by Rick Corso.
I was working in Los Angeles doing a play that I wrote called Vegarama, which was a parody of Las Vegas. I was a comedian, I was a singer who hosted a variety show. My big problem, my comedic hill to overcome, was that I sounded too much like Sinatra to make it big. So that was the whole premise of the story. And everything that could possibly go wrong with the show went wrong. Obviously, it's comedy. All my guests on the show, like I had a mime with Tourette syndrome. All these things were horrible, and it was funny. We basically sent up Vegas. And Joey Paul, the casting director from Hey Arnold, came to the show probably because my friend Billy Reback asked her to, and he knew her. And I guess she was looking for somebody to play Dino, and she saw me singing as this guy that sounded like Sinatra, and that's how it came about. I was a comic already. I loved Frank Sinatra when I was a kid. My mother loved Frank Sinatra. My father loved Frank Sinatra. My father died when I was 7 years old. And for about 2 or 3 years, my mother did nothing but listen to Frank Sinatra and cry. And that's all I could hear. I grew up without a father after 7 years old, and I basically did Sinatra. So the play was 93. But I had been doing Sinatra a cappella as a voice impression in my act since about 84. Here was the premise of the joke was, Sinatra sings New York, New York, L.A. is my lady, Chicago. What if he worked somewhere more rural, like, I don't know, Nashville? What would he do? Sing the square dance, and I would do, swing your partner to and fro, take that chicken, do-si-do. It was a bit I did, right? And I did it for, forever. And once in a while I still do it. But I always felt from the response of that bit that I could do them pretty well. And then, I don't know, I was trying to come up with ideas for a show to do as a play, and it just, I don't know, you put your best foot forward, I guess. went to see Jim. I think the first time I did it, I don't even know if I had much dialogue, but I know I did a song at Jim's house. He had a studio in his basement or garage, and he was directing me through the it was like in the 1 minute song, Smashed, it was called. And he, I guess he kind of picked up after a few minutes that I wasn't a real singer. So he was directing me through, he's showing me where to hit the pitch, and he's got his hand, I can't do it on the phone, but he's raising his hand up to give me higher pitch, and he was literally directing me through it. And we took all 4 hours of what would be a voiceover session to record the 1 minute song, because he really wanted to get it right. And it was great. It was such a great lesson to work with him. He was brilliant. He really was brilliant.
Jim Lang, composer, Hey Arnold.
In the old building, the song Smashed is the song that, Grandma and Grandpa got together. They remembered that song, from back in the day. So had to write the song, had to write a kind of Sinatra-style song. Come the day we're going to record Rick Corso, he comes in the studio, and I put the track up, and I said, "You listened to the song, right?" He said, "Yeah, I listened to it." So I started playing the track, and he starts singing in a completely different key than the music was in. I said, "Well, are you hearing the track okay in your headset?" It's like, well, turns out he's completely tone deaf. He can't discriminate pitch. So if you tell him to sing higher, he sings louder, and if you tell him to sing lower in pitch, he sings softer. But on the other hand, what he really was a great mimic, which was why he could do Frank Sinatra. He could listen to a Sinatra record and then sing you back Sinatra. So I ended up going in the studio and standing next to him and singing every line from the song, and then he would sing it back to me. I'd sing it, and he'd sing it back to me. And so we strung together all the lines from the song, and then I went in Pro Tools and cut them all into the song.
Well, that's exactly it. That's hysterical. Thanks for holding it back until I told you my story. Because it's true. I was tone deaf because I didn't know. I couldn't read it from the page. It wasn't a page. He gave me a recording of him doing it, and then and like he said, I was tone deaf. But then he directed me through it. He really, I guess. All right, here, my version is it took 4 hours because he was a perfectionist. His version is it took 4 hours because I wasn't good, and he had to get me through 4 hours of it. You know what I mean?
And of course, this was it was just one song, and it was a ton of work, but it ended up being really funny in the show, and people love the character. So what happens? He's a recurring character.
As the show continued beyond its first season, the character began to take on a life of its own, from bit player to overshadowing Arnold in his featured episodes. Which begs the question, is an episode about a 50s crooner attempting to make a comeback still a kid's show? In Dino's episodes, and many other episodes of the show, Arnold and the school kids become afterthoughts and B-stories. Arnold plays the Jiminy Cricket role to Dino's self-sabotage, but the pair often seems forced together. Because do a 9-year-old kid and a washed-up singer 50 years his senior hang out? The adult world of Hey Arnold was far more rich and vibrant than the world of the children. Mickey Kaline, the retiring baseball player, a Vietnamese boarding resident with a golden country singing voice, and the infamous Pigeon Man. Even Arnold and Helga are adult characters. Arnold is a little baby Buddha giving sage advice to his elders. Helga is a 9-year-old poet, with the lust of a Shakespearean character stuck with an alcoholic mother and a neglectful father that she has to parent. It should be no surprise that part of this artistic direction came from Viksten, the same mind behind a Vietnam episode of Arnold. Steve always wanted more than the cartoon life. He wanted to be a feature writer, which he set out to do back in the 80s with Joanne Salabaher. Those aspirations resulted in an extending of the parameters of what a children's cartoon can be, and there's always that undercurrent in Hey Arnold episodes, especially the Dino Spumoni ones. By the end of Season 4, Dino has gone from a bit part to a 12-minute episode to a 2-part 24-minute episode. In the 2-part Dino special, he fakes his own death in order to increase nostalgia for his career and thereby sell more albums. And it's not just his death. It's reported that he's lost at sea.
And finally, this late word that a note has been found, believed to have been written by Spumoni only last night. It reads, quote, "I got nothing left. My career's a bust, and so is my personal life. I took my best shot, but in the end, it all came to nothing. So now that I'm all alone and washed up, I might as well say, sayonara, baby." The note is signed simply, Dino. Back to you, Ted.
That's the closest you can get to suicide without directly saying it. There was a suicide note read aloud in Hey Arnold. And with those plots, you're demanding much more from your actor. Corso wasn't coming in for a quick impression. He was coming in for a wide-ranging, deep, and complicated performance. In School Dance, he has to nail the humor of a man so desperate he cut an album called Yo Dino Raps.
Kids today, they don't want to hear the old stuff. They want rap and hip-hat and grunt music. You gotta be styling on the house and all that other crazy jive you kids are hep to these days.
Huh?
Oh, sure, I tried to keep up with the times. I tried it all. Look at this record I made last year.
I'm in the house, baby. Styling. Dino is in the house.
It sold like a lead balloon. No, it's all over for me, kid.
While in the same episode, Dino is confronted with the stark naked truth about his life.
Dino, you're not even trying.
Trying? Let me tell you something about trying, kid. I tried for 45 years, and for a while it worked pretty good. But then it all fell apart like a pile of wet newspaper. Nobody bought Dino Spumoni records. Nobody came to my concerts. Nobody wanted to book me. Nobody.
I booked you.
Yeah, but that's because you was desperate.
The point is, I asked you to play at our dance because I really liked your old music. I thought the other kids would like it too. And I thought you wanted to play it.
I told you before, kid, nobody wants to hear the old music. Nobody likes that stuff anymore.
Not even you?
What are you talking about? Of course I like the old songs. That's who I am, baby. That's what I'm all about. Those songs are great. If I sang those old songs right now, they'd knock you right on your ear.
Then why don't you do it?
At a certain point, you try to put your mark down and say, I'm no longer doing an impression, now I'm the character, you know. Partners, I think, was the second episode I did. And Harvey Korman was my co-star. And, you know, believe me, I was in awe and shocked to be working with Harvey Korman. He said to me, you're Dino, you're my partner, you're like way too young. And then I did the voice and he got it, you know. And he even gave me lines, you know, jokes for my character, which they put in that weren't in the script, that actually worked. And it was so great to do the Partners episode with Harvey Korman. Are you kidding me? It was amazing. But I don't know. I think what it was that made me feel the emotion of the character was just being in the moment. You know, I studied acting for a long time. You know what I mean? You hear these catchphrases, but I really was in the moment because I was with another actor who was really good, and it makes you better, you know. In that episode, and the other one, Fake My Own Death, maybe I just got better at acting. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, I just maybe at the time the Fake My Own Death episode was the fourth one, I probably really kind of gelled as the character at that point. Having been coached through it by Harvey Korman and Dan Castellaneta, I did an episode with him, and he helped me also. And, you know, you learn from other people that do it well. Yeah, but Steve was there. He was definitely, I met him at least twice, and he was such a great hang, yeah. He had written the Dino Fakes His Own Death episode, and he also told me that he had another idea for an episode that didn't get picked up. It was about, there's a Dino Land, which is a dinosaur theme park, and Dino Spumoni thinks it's about him, so he gets all excited. I remember Steve telling me about the idea. He had never wrote it, but it was the idea he had. Maybe he did write it, but it didn't get picked up.
And then Dino was done. Hey Arnold was put out to pasture in 2004, but was revived for a Jungle movie in 2017. The only problem is, Nickelodeon couldn't find Rick Corso.
No, the first movie I got, my character got cut out. The first movie, all my character had in the script was like a full page of dialogue bragging about myself while introducing Tony Bennett. You know, that was the whole premise was, this guy Tony Bennett's great, but here's more about me, you know, because Dino was this braggart, right? And then I guess maybe Tony didn't do the movie and they just cut the whole bit out. But I don't know for sure that one. And the Jungle movie, I wasn't going to be in. I think they got somebody else to do me because I moved to Florida. I was gone for 12 years and I was no longer active in SAG. So I guess they probably tried to find me and they couldn't find me. So they had somebody else, you know, if you do 4 voices or less, it's the same price, right? So they had somebody else do me. And they played it back for me, and it didn't sound like me. And I guess they thought, well, the kids that were a fan of the show back when would not have liked a different voice doing the character. So, this is a great story. I was in Las Vegas with my friend Steve Schaefer, working at the Laugh Factory, and he was talking to Dom Irera, who plays Ernie, and Dom says, "Oh yeah, tell Rick that Nickelodeon is looking for him." So I called Nickelodeon, and next thing you know, I had the gig. It was great, but it came like a year after I heard they were doing the movie. Because when I heard they were doing the movie, I started texting and sending Twitter messages to Nickelodeon, "Hey, I'm still alive, I'm available," but they just never responded. And then, like a year later, John told me they were looking for me, so I got on it. Well, ironically, my favorite song is the one I didn't sing. Alan Paul sang, and because I think it might have been, well, I don't know, mixed stories. Jim told me that it was because he wrote it out of my range, but on the other hand, it may have been because I was on a ship working as a comic and just got somebody else to do it. But they got Alan Paul from the Manhattan Transfer to sing it. Talking about a great singer. And he sang "You Better Not Touch My Gal," which is my favorite song, which I did when I went to do the movie. They give you're booked for 30 minutes, and I had 3 lines. So I did my 3 lines in about a minute, and it was done. And so the last 29 minutes, I just sang that song over again, hoping they'd put it in the movie. And they didn't, obviously. But the director, the new director, but the new director is a young guy, and I met him while I was doing it. He kept saying, "Stop snapping your finger. Stop, because I'm picking up on the mic." And I was only snapping my finger to have time because there was no band. And it was kind of funny, so it took a while to get me to stop snapping my finger while I was singing. And obviously, they did not use it, but it was worth trying. It was worth a try.
Rick is still working. He continues to perform stand-up comedy on the cruise ship circuit, where if you're lucky, you'll hear him do Sinatra. But to a generation, he'll be doing Dino Spumoni.
1, 2, 3, 4. Please come back and see me at 11:30. It'll be a totally different show, and, we'll do all we can for that guy, Babarazzo Luzzo, his name is, right? Bobby Babarazzo. Ship life. All we do is eat all day. Can't take another bite till that midnight buffet. How these buttons will be popping soon. If you don't, put down that spoon. Ship life, funny as it may seem. 12 meals a day, still got room for ice cream. I feel the weight going straight to my thighs. Still I keep eating those burgers and fries. We've got potatoes and pickles and pastry and peppers, prawns a la king. Next up we eat more burgers, some trout. We'll eat anything. Each time I feel my gut, I think there's no more space. I pick my fork up, stuff more food in my face. Got a pita, a pocket, some pizza, some pasta, big bag of wings. Next up, we eat more meat from a cow. We're the Burger Kings. Each time I feel this gut, I think there's no more space. Pick my fork up, stuff more food in my face. Shit life. Shit life. I can't deny it. I want something low fat, but you know they're gonna fry it. If there's no more apple lemon or pumpkin pie, I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball and die. My.
Ladies and gentlemen, the comedy of Rick Corso. Man, that was great. Fantastic.